Audio log Saturday, October 7th, 2023. Michael Cook speaking. I'm making this audio log to talk about the concept of a couple of things. Clarification and stagnation, productivity, or efficiency, things of that nature. So I'm going to take the time in this particular audio log to talk about how I once managed a computer shop, and when I worked there, the first 3 weeks that I worked there, I was setting sales records, and the owner of the company, Pavel Zachenko, took it upon himself to make indication of that at a company meeting, which was basically every couple of weeks they would have payday, and on that payday they would have a meeting. And like during these meetings, I walk in like the first meeting or so, and I start talking about ideas to bring more money into the company and stuff, and people seem interested and whatnot. And over time I would try to like inspire the guys with ideas or things that they could do to be more efficient with sales and stuff. And so when I was working at Computer Answers, I took the initiative to take on other roles, since I had noticed that other people weren't going to take on those roles. Those roles included server administrator, network engineer, business solutions on-site expertise, going to the Chamber of Commerce and having discussions there, trying to broker deals with ProTech for like wholesale or consignment on computers, and I'm trying to come up with like documentation and scripts or things to help anybody that was having a tough time performing a particular task, how to be more efficient or effective at whatever the task was. Sometimes people would ask me a question, about how to resolve a particular situation. I would say, well, I think you're going about it the wrong way. What you should do is back out of that idea entirely and instead focus on a different solution, which will likely net more profit and likely take less time for you to achieve that result, and it would be a much more desired outcome than whatever you're looking to achieve. And so with these things in mind, I noticed a level of resistance from some of the people, and this resistance is kind of scattered throughout society so much. Like I didn't experience a heck of a lot of resistance from the customers. Typically the customers would ask me what would I recommend for a particular situation, and so I would provide my recommendation. And it's not to say that like every single time that I made a recommendation that they would go with it, but a lot of times they would. And whenever they did, like I didn't hear like any negativity from the customers. They were just willing to go with my idea. And I think the fact of the matter is that I was too good at this process that I've described. Right? I also did some of these things working at infrastructure, which is what I talked about at the first company meeting, when Pavel Zachenko was like, yeah, this dude is like on a hot streak within the first 3 weeks of being here. Right? Computer Answers is a small company. It's a very small company. It's not run by a lot of people. It had a number of stores because the owner was trying to open up locations in each of the as many towns as he could in the capital district. He managed to have like 7 stores at one time, or maybe even more than that. I'm not sure. But what I noticed when I worked at Computer Answers was a lot of things being done inefficiently or not at all, and how they could be more efficient so that the company could make more money in less time. And as I started to come up with a strategy to be able to take on other roles and teach people how to, stay on top of tasks and what to look for and what to avoid. Oh, I noticed that like some of the guys that were working there were like, "Don't talk to me like that. You're not the owner of the company, and the owner of the company, he doesn't know about this thing that you're saying, and so I think we should wait till the next company meeting to talk about this in front of the other guys, and then we'll see what the owner has to say about it then." And this is what happened a lot. And I noticed that a lot of people in society, they think like this too. We're like, someone who's more well known or more famous than me, or is more respected, or has more money or more property or more assets. They'll go to them and they'll be like, "This dude said that you're doing something shady, dumb, illicit, or illegal, and that you need to be caught for whatever you're doing. So I told him that he needs to go eat a dick, cause you're the shit and he's not. He doesn't know his head from his ass. He's just a kid whose dad was murdered when he was 10 years old, and he went to Shenandoah High School, and he didn't have the greatest grades or nothing. No, he wasn't a valedictorian. He didn't have straight A's. He barely passed some of his classes, and his transcript is littered with, it has A's in some spots, but it also has C's in other spots. So this dude isn't that smart like he thinks he is." But like, the thing is that I was really bored in school and didn't apply myself. And the places that I did apply myself were at Capital Region Career and Technical School. So I have a lot of passion for things involving technology, and a lot of other people fucking don't. So that said, I applied many of my passions and creativity toward my work at Computer Answers, because I couldn't do it at KeyBank, couldn't do it at Infrastructure, couldn't do it at Metroland. Did sort of do some stuff with Metroland, but they're a small newspaper outlet that I worked for like 7 years, and the reason why I stopped working there after 7 years is because Stephen Leon kept cutting fucking checks for the employees that weren't able to be cashed. Right? I would have a conversation with this dude over at Citizens Bank in Clifton Park. I don't know his last name, but his first name is Dennis, and I would go to cash a check, and it's illegal for an employer to give somebody a check that it can't clear. But Stephen Leon had a habit of doing that quite often, and it frustrated me for the very last time when, Michelle Rathke used to be my manager, and she and I rarely ever had issues, if at all, right? Never had an issue with her specifically. But I did have an issue with the owner of the company, Stephen Leon, cutting checks that I couldn't fucking cash. And this happened a lot towards the last 2 or 3 years that I worked there. And, had no money in my pocket, was very low on gas. And, I get a call from Carl replaced Michelle Rathke to be like the distribution manager, right? And, Carl's like, I call Carl, he's like, yeah, no, the checks will clear, dude. Don't you worry. And then so like I was the last one there, I picked up my check, and I went directly to the bank to cash it, and lo and behold, insufficient funds. You're not going to be able to cash this check. So I was pretty pissed off about it and went right to the office at 523 Western. And I walked into Mr. Leon's office, and I asked him for some money. And the last thing he said to me was, "Don't make sure this never happens again." And then I snapped. And I sent him, like, I don't know how many fucking messages, sort of like harassing his ass. Like, I had no intention of delivering the papers after that conversation. I probably said a bunch of shit that I shouldn't have said. But, that's what happens when someone who's a loyal employee or a loyal worker, gets pushed over, and the straw that broke the camel's back is basically the metaphor that I'm alluding to with all of this. working at Computer Answers was pretty similar in a lot of ways, right? $4,000 that this dude, Pavel Zachenko, owed me back in 2018. And, you know, I was going around, driving around for the Assurian Corporation, for iFixYourEye on behalf of Computer Answers, going to people's jobs and people's houses and fixing their fucking phones on site. And I did this a lot. I drove my vehicle around like 200 miles a day, doing anywhere between 5 to 10 jobs. And each of those jobs paid about like $100 or maybe more than that. I'm not sure. But anyway, me and Chris Flozier, some other guy that was working at Computer Answers, who I believe he wound up working for infrastructure, I'm not sure about that, who like was hanging out with Alex Myers a lot, who wound up working at infrastructure, right? Like at some point in 2018, like I told them that, you know, me and Pavel had brokered a deal to where I was going to do the on-site stuff and I was going to be making a hell of a lot more money and everything. And I could see the look on their faces like, huh, okay. Right? Like, sometimes in life, you might have a disagreement with somebody, depending on who it is. But what I've noticed is that anytime that I've stuck up for myself, you know, people will casually, like, they'll state this in nonverbal means that I'm just some fuckboy that doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Meanwhile, I'm right smack dab in the middle of doing something that they didn't have the initiative to do. And I'm more efficient, and like typically I'm more efficient at whatever that task is, right? And then I also have an understanding of people's psychology in general. So like, I know that when I'm having a conversation with somebody that they're bullshitting me, or like they're just kind of like trying to be diplomatic, but it doesn't work when you're as sharp and astute as I am. And so, what does this all have to do with productivity, efficiency, or things that the things that I said in the beginning of the audio recording? Well, simply put, like they say that if you're really, if you work really hard, you'll get ahead in life. But that's, you know, that depends. And for most people, that it doesn't work like that. For some people it does, because they know how to be diplomatic, like Chad Gregory, the owner of Next Generation Roofing. You know, I remember when he used to live up the street from me, right? And like, we didn't like hang out or talk a hell of a lot. But like, I remember when he used to drive around in his truck, right? And working at IHOP. Right? And like, he was always a pretty diplomatic dude. I know that he found success by working with guys like Bruce Tansky and Chad Doro and his father, and you know, doing a whole bunch of construction jobs, like installing roofing and this, that, and the other thing. Not unlike what Tim Lindsay did, not unlike what Doug Bagley did with you know, installing siding and stuff. With and you know, not unlike Tim did both siding and roofing. Right? Like, sidestep all of that, right? Some people succeed because they're very diplomatic, right? But then they also might have an understanding of how to be more efficient as well. I'm not discounting that some people have that ability. But what I have noticed is that it doesn't fucking matter how diplomatic I am. Someone's gonna give me a fucking problem. And then when I like lose my shit, it's mainly because like I know that I've been diplomatic for so long, and me being diplomatic didn't make a fucking goddamn difference in the relationship that I had with somebody. And what I've also noticed is that if you talk like I'm talking in this particular audio recording, people will treat you like the 500-pound elephant in the fucking room. And they won't say nothing. They won't respond. The situation might be uncomfortable, untenable for them to be able to get involved and say something or say what's on their mind or whatever. And like, I don't expect everybody to want to have a conversation with me after numerous fucking incidents that I've noticed. But what I do expect is that people take me seriously when I say that I could walk into a fucking job site and be able to generate $175 an hour by doing what I was doing at Computer Answers, right? And you know, depending on what the next job is that I do, if like I continue to keep trying to do whatever the hell I've been doing the last few years, application development, virtualization, network and hardware magistration, graphic design, writing stuff in a journalistic manner, writing things in a investigative manner, and being able to see like a company like Verizon and Spectrum working hand in hand in order to extort people and, you know, limit the amount of choices that people have for internet, or you know, internet neutrality being like relinquished so that like only certain companies in the middle of all the communications, they have the ability to like print money by I don't know. I don't really want to get into the pseudoscience or the manners and methods of how some people with a lot of capital, they can throw it around and they can sort of just have a stranglehold over a particular market, and not unlike what Verizon and Spectrum were doing. And if somebody like me sees a fucking problem and starts talking about it and trying to like raise awareness about it, and I notice a lot of people, they're not going to give a shit, and they're fine with being able to, you know, get service from these companies, and if they're involved in cyber attacks or espionage or you know, limiting free speech or censorship or anything to that nature, the average person isn't going to give a shit. The reason why the average person isn't going to give a shit is because they have no reason for them to be concerned about any of that. Whereas like with digital security, you sure as hell should be worried about all of that shit. And, you know, Julian Assange was sure as hell worried about it. Edward Snowden was sure as hell worried about it. That's why they covered the numerous documents and leaked a whole bunch of documents like they did. And this isn't going to apply to somebody who's happy to be working at some place, being friendly-faced and, you know, doing a whole bunch of, like, double-speak and, you know, being incredibly vague and never really telling people how they really feel about certain subjects because, hey, a lot of people are afraid to talk about what's really troubling them. So, like, in my case, if I say that I have every reason to believe that someone was spying on me for a while and sort of like doing it to tarnish my reputation or my ability to do work, well, it would be because like every single time that I put my mind to something, I managed to make other people that like were political and liked that whole time look less talented or skilled at what they do. And it's not unlike making them look incompetent. Is basically what I'm getting at. If you go around making people look incompetent and you're not diplomatic about it at all, you're going to bruise their ego. You're going to make them feel like they have to have some sort of recourse or a way to retaliate against you. And a lot of people in society are going to find that shit hard to believe because they're diplomatic and they might like be in a certain order on the totem pole, and they're not going to throw away the idea of being diplomatic and hurt people's feelings in order to, you know, further their own career interests or whatever. Right? All these topics that I've talked about, they do matter in the grand scheme of things because people do care about like how much things cost. A lot of people like they think that the more money you spend on something, the better the result. But that's an illusion. Sometimes you can take the time to build or do something yourself, and you know, there's going to be plenty of trial and error in that approach, but you know, the end result is a significant amount of savings. Trying to do things yourself, or trying to compete with somebody that's been doing something a long time and has a reputation to be worried about or concerned about, you know, that's going to make a huge difference in, you know, if someone comes along and starts doing something in order to compete and they're a natural at it, and someone's going to come along and throw a monkey wrench into somebody's plans and try to sabotage their fucking work. And like, you know, this happens all across the board. And I think more than anything, that people are afraid to have this rationale or mentality that I've rattled off so far. Thus, that is why I no longer work at Computer Answers. And that is why I believe that Pavel Zachenko had hacker buddies fucking attacking me when I was in the Bennington shop back in, 2019. Right? And like the numerous things that I recorded on video and observed, like from that point forward, were resulting to me sort of coming to like this realization that a lot of people are fucking stupid. Simply put, a lot of people, they're fucking morons. And that's not to say everybody's a fucking moron, but some people are just oblivious, and I don't know, it comes down to like democracy, how like majority rule says that like if you're part of the minority and you just happen to be more observant than everyone else that's in the majority, then they can label you as insane, and then that's it, and then you're labeled as insane, and then you're not insane at all, you're just more observant than everybody that's part of the majority, and the people in the lead of the majority, they're going to be diplomatic, and they might have less talent, or they might be less dedicated or motivated than someone that's not in the minority, that's in the minority, right? So here's what I'm saying. If you're just really intelligent and you have to bite your lip a lot in order not to offend other people that might be higher on the totem pole, then that's a symbol that's basically representative of a lot of people in society who are going to take offense to a lot of shit that I've said in this particular audio recording, right? And they're not going to pay attention to the goddamn thing that I'm saying unless, I've said a number of things that make plenty of sense. And so clarification is in order. Clarification is required in order to, convey to somebody who's not as observant that they might not be ignorant or oblivious. They might just have no idea, or they might not have the observation skills to be able to detect something that's happening right in front of their faces because they trusted some people that are highly respected, and those highly respected people, they're being political and they were bullshitting their way around in order to retain control and authority. And so, a lot of people would be like, there's no way that one guy can go around making a bunch of other guys look incompetent. Yeah, there is. There is a way that someone can do that. The problem is that, like, they don't have anything to worry about because, their numerous interactions with other people and their relationships with those people allow them to be more credible. So, like, if they, I don't know, it comes down to making an appearance with people, talking with them, explaining to them what's happening, and providing a bunch of evidence to support the claim. But like, if someone that has a lot of credibility just comes along and says, no, that dude doesn't know what he's talking about, then what happens is that people will listen to that because they don't know any better. So when I was working with Doug Bagley out in Italy, New York, right back in November of 2021, almost 2 years ago, right? I had just, had this displeasure of being part of this family court situation with Judge Paul Pellegali. And 6 months prior to that, I was working with Kenneth Yates at Business Products Company, and I was in the process of being able to restart my business with a shop and to service clients and stuff and customers. But what wound up happening is somebody went to the town and was like, does Michael Cook have his fucking permits and this, that, and the other fucking thing? He can't be doing business here if he doesn't have any of that shit. So like, I was in the process of trying to start my business up again, but some incompetent fuckface from the town decided to come around and rain on my fucking parade, right? I had no opportunity to be able to even start doing business because, I don't know, it's just maybe you just have to be diplomatic or political and suck somebody's dick at the fucking town hall in order to get ahead and start your own business and to fucking take care of your kids, But if you can't do all of that, then they're just going to keep dragging somebody over into a certain category of people, and they're going to fucking ignore everything they fucking say, right? And someone's going to get rightfully pissed off about how many fucking morons don't understand that. Right? Some of those people might be my fucking mother, right? And like other people, you know, I have been being watched by somebody, you know, I have videos of it. Has anyone asked for clarification in order for me to like prove that the FBI or somebody else has been watching me from time to time? No, nobody has asked for clarification about that shit. So I have to like make these audio recordings, make a number of videos, write a whole bunch of programming, do graphical design, graphical user interface design, and you know, occasionally have to tear apart like my laptop because it's not charging or the trackpad doesn't work or etc. and so forth. Meanwhile, somebody over at Computer Answers, he doesn't have to worry about any of this shit. He has a fraction of the talent I do, and can't crack my fucking numbers, and a lot of people seem to trust him and like him, and you know, he's living comfortably while I'm having everything about my life stripped and taken away. And nobody sees me as a victim in this whole process. It really feels like nobody gives a shit, but I'm sure some people give a shit. They just might not be willing to have a conversation with me. And some of those people might be in my fucking family, but I'm not going to identify who those people are because I want them to have an opportunity to, like, you know, say, hey, maybe I fucking misunderstood you, or maybe I didn't realize that you were, you know, doing something that was very difficult for a person to do with no help. And you need help in life in order to succeed at a goddamn thing, because if you don't have help, then people are just gonna try to sabotage your work. And that means that you need to be diplomatic, and you need to go to the town hall and suck somebody's dick there in order to get, you know, the right to run your business again. And you're not allowed to swear. You're not allowed to discredit people. You're not allowed to, like, record people without their knowledge and have a conversation with them and then transcribe it and then put it into a video and then make it very apparent that somebody did say something at a certain time, but they didn't think that it was really all that important, or like it didn't matter because the person that they were talking to was some fuckboy named Michael Christopher Cook Sr. Yeah, so like all that shit does matter in the grand scheme of things. You know, these are things I think about like on a rather regular basis. I'm not going to go around saying that everybody's stupid or everybody's a lazy fuck or whatever. But what I can say for certain is that I could walk into the Chamber of Commerce any given day of the fucking week, you know, after brushing up on my appearance and giving a general shit about what most people in society care about, like hygiene and what clothes you're wearing, what shoes you're wearing, and, you know, having a very professional and productive conversation with some people about what I plan to do with my business, whether it's establishing relationships with vendors like ProTech, or you know, confronting potential investors that have a lot of money but they don't know what to invest in order to make more of it, or you know, talking with the Department of Education about the numerous student loan debts that I have, and how, like, I know that I qualify for student loan forgiveness from Navient, right? You know, if I talk about, like, everything that frustrates me, right? Well, I'll talk about for a little while about how while I was managing Computer Answers, I went to New Horizons and spoke with the director of the school, who was no longer Jim Thomas. And then when I had this conversation with him, I said, you know, I want to, like, finish up my certification, the tracks that I'm expected to pay for. You know, like, Navient keeps calling me, so maybe what I should do is spend a little bit of time, finish getting my certifications, and then when those certifications put money into my fucking pocket, then I can pay Navient the fucking money that they're expecting. Not before that, but after that. because the student loans that I took on between ITT Tech and New Horizons hasn't really put a goddamn thing into my pocket. If anything, it's been a thorn in my fucking side and probably a fucking total waste of time. That's what I've observed. A lot of people, they take on these student loans and they don't get a return on their investment, but they're expected to pay the fucking student loans. So I think there's something fucked up about that, because everyone is just expected to take the abuse. So if somebody is performing predatory lending practices and doesn't honor their word that they're going to help somebody get employment or something that has to do with the fields of study that they're spending the student loan debt to study in, well, the marketplace is competitive, but fact of the matter is ITT Tech went bankrupt because of the class action lawsuits. And, I would imagine that Jim Thomas selling New Horizons or whatever to the new guy who didn't want to honor the tuition that I was expected to pay or the amount of money that I did pay, right? Sort of like buying a Pontiac Grand Prix from North Star Chevrolet and financing it, and then a year and a half before it's fully paid for, the engine dies, and then 6 months after that the transmission dies. So basically what it comes down to is that some people are expected to pay a whole lot of money up front with no promise that what they're financing is going to last or generate any sort of wealth for them. And you're just expected to be pushed around like a little bitch and take the abuse. And, they don't say the shit out loud. They don't say it out loud. You're not allowed to get pissed off about any of the things that I've said in this particular audio recording. You're not allowed to get pissed off if you outperformed other people at some of the jobs that you've had and, make people look incompetent. You're not allowed to be an asshole. You're not allowed to use foul language. You're not allowed to build a program that requires a hell of a lot of intellect and a number of studies in order to be a system administrator or impress and dazzle the shit out of potential customers, businesses, or all these fucking things that I've said on my mind quite often. I have to take a step back from it quite often and not think about it, because I know that some real hot bitch can roll out of bed and fucking get herself dressed up and, take a selfie, and it's not that complicated, and they'll get a lot of attention from a lot of people for that. And they don't need to fucking go to school and study shit in order to succeed. No, they just need to fucking show a picture of themselves to other people or walk into a place and then, be hot looking, and they'll get a hell of a lot of attention. If they apply for a job, then their qualifications won't necessarily matter so much as their appearance, and they'll get hired for their appearance alone. And so, my mother used to say, I'd ask her to buy something, and she'd be like, well, buy it with what? My looks? So, women do this. They use their appearance in order to get somewhere in society. And, me knowing a whole bunch of shit and being able to prove all the shit that I know, and that doesn't matter because I'm not some fucking real hot bitch, right? It did matter when I was managing a fucking business and was getting phone calls to go to place A, to place B, to place C numerous times, but it's not going to matter when, I've lost a lot of trust in a lot of people who maybe they're not that bright. And the reason why they find so many of the things that I say to be argumentative, or they have a disposition and they don't want to have a conversation with me or acknowledge my fucking existence, it could be because, I don't know, they're still clinging to this idea that they have to be nice in order to get ahead in life. But, that only works for so long. Sometimes you can work for somebody for 7 fucking years like I did at fucking Metroland, right? And you can have spent that whole entire time being diplomatic and talking with the employees and being very nice and doing your job and being timely and punctual, but the employer can still kick you around and issue a check that has insufficient fucking funds in the account, so you can't cash it. And then So like this has happened to me for a while. Like even at Computer Answers, this same sort of shit happened, right? I can manage Computer Answers. I could tell Pavel, the owner of the company, to fuck off. I'll run your business and I'll be able to generate 10% more than you would, like in the first fucking month, and then continue to make more money than that. Mainly because I know what to look for. I'm not a lazy bastard. I'm not gonna fucking have a whole bunch of fucking new kids coming into the business, like not knowing what the hell they're doing, and not teach them how to fucking succeed and know what the hell they're doing in order to generate more profit. And further to that point, I'm not going to just hire some people just to be a placeholder like he did. Sometimes he would hire somebody who didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and like he would just have them stand there, and then he would have somebody that did know what the hell they were doing come in later on, and then they would have the new guy that didn't know a goddamn thing say, yeah, this person came in and they said this, that, and the other thing. They dropped this off, and et cetera and so forth, and so on and so forth. And then they'd be like, all right, well, go ahead and take off for the day. And you know who does that? Dwayne Coonrad. Dwayne Coonrad, I'm sure as hell, am fucking goddamn certain of it, is frustrated from having to work for this fucking place and having to balance so many fucking things that he's got to do, and having to bullshit people left and right. Who's to say how often he does this? But you know, here's what he used to do when I worked at Computer Answers, right? Somebody would come in with a $900 laptop. And then they'd be like, well, I have this $900 laptop. I was looking to get like $500 for it. And then Dwayne Coonrad would be like, oh, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'll punch in that model into the system. And then, if the numbers work out, then we'll be able to buy it. And then he would open up Notepad, right? And he would pretend that it was some like calculator from hell that would appraise the value of the laptop. And then he'd be like, oh, no, system says that I wouldn't be able to do 500. And then the customer would be like, oh, come on, man. Can you do like 400 for it then? And then like Dwayne would like punch in more keys in the Notepad, and then it'd be like, oh, no, it's telling me that I can't do it. You know, Notepad saying that he can't buy the $400 laptop is bullshit. It's basically him like coming up with any reason, like thinking like a guy who used to work at a fucking carnival all the time, going from point A to point B all around the fucking country, telling me stories about how he would, like scam people at the fucking carnival all the time, right? He's basically scamming the customer. And like the customer would be like, all right, well, if you're not going to do 400 for it, how much would you do? And then Dwayne would be like, enter another couple keys in the Notepad, and he'd be like, it's telling me I might be able to do 250. I have to call the boss and make sure that it's okay with him. And boss being Pavel, who was probably in bed not doing a goddamn thing except scratching his fucking nuts that day, right? And so then what would happen then is like the customer would be like, wow, man, 250, come on, man, you can do more than that. Be like, look, I can do 250 for you. Do you want the 250? He'd be like, yeah, I guess I'll take the 250. And then he'd be like, all right, well, I can do half cash and half check. And the customer would be like, whoa, you said you would give me 250 cash. And Dwayne would be like, well, I can give you 125 cash and 125 in a check. If you're okay with that, I can call the boss and see if he's okay with that, right? And then the customer would be like, man, fine, whatever. And so Dwayne would like take his phone, and then he wouldn't even call Pavel. Maybe sometimes he would, but like he would pretend like he was on the phone with Pavel and be like, hey, this guy coming in here with like a 2014 MacBook. He was looking to get like 250 for it. You want me to write a $125 check and 125 cash, right? And Pavel, he would fake Pavel would be like, well, we have too many of those. And then Dwayne would be like, oh, he says that we have too many of those. So I don't know if I could even buy it now. And then the customer has been devalued so much with a $900 laptop, thinking that he could probably get $500 for it, coming to Computer Answers and being like talked down to like $200. So like that is the reason why Dwayne works at Computer Answers, right? I didn't have to resort to those tactics. I let him continue to do that. What I focused on was being able to sell something that was ready to go or trade in or whatever. So I'm not saying that like what Dwayne was doing was necessarily inherently bad or whatever, but sometimes he would install hacked software from like Pirate Bay, right? He used this KMS activator, the hack installation for Windows, so that it didn't need a legitimate product key, and he would charge the customer like full price for the service for installing the Windows operating system. Right? So, like, I'm talking about all this shit because, like, this dude said a number of things about me to a number of people and continues to do business. One of the people that he did this shit to was telling Philip Fox out in fucking Bennington that, like, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, or I installed a buggy version of Windows back in 2019 when I was managing the Bennington computer answers, right? And then Philip Fox decided to take the business that he had to do with me, and then he went to fucking Computer Answers in Clifton Park and continued to do business with Dwayne, who was going to install a fucking hacked version of the software that he never fucking paid for. So, like, you know, these are the things that are on my mind quite often. Like, people just bullshitting each other left and right, not really giving a shit about the fucking truth, because, you know, who gives a shit about the truth? The truth doesn't fucking matter. What matters is how people perceive you, and whether you're fucking you're political with people, and you have a friendly face, and you accept the bullshit, and you pay your bills, and you pay your bills on time. It doesn't matter if the bills that you're paying for are even worth the amount that you're expected to pay. It doesn't matter if you're being ripped off. What matters is that you're dependable and you pay your fucking bills. So if you have to lie to people indiscriminately in order to be able to do that, then by God, go ahead and continue to do that. And all these things that I've mentioned in this particular audio recording, they're on my mind quite often. And they're the reason why I get fucking pissed off at people who, like, seem to, like, doubt the shit that I'm saying. Why would I have a reason to lie about any of that shit? Well, I'll tell you. Does it put me in any better position by saying all that shit happens? No, it doesn't really put me in any better position, because if anything, it puts me in a worse position, because if people don't give a shit and they continue to, like, allow themselves to be, like, victimized by one thing or another, and they're just going to continue to pay the bill. And, you know, the bills everywhere start to skyrocket like inflation and shit. And, you know, some people that are efficient and, you know, make a hell of a lot of money, they might not necessarily make a lot of mistakes, or they might not have to lie to a lot of people in order to succeed and whatnot. But, you know, I know that it happens all across the board. It's not like, you know, like a fringe case scenario where someone's going to bullshit one another in order to make themselves look better and to make more money or to have a better reputation. Right? All these things that I've said in this particular audio recording, I think they're going to resonate with some fucking people. End log.